Tennessee hoops, definitely in the news. They pick up a big one. Igor Milicic Jr., in fact. How big of a pickup is this for the basketball Vols and Rick Barnes?
This is a gigantic pickup. I think that Tennessee, a week after adding Ohio State transfer Felix Okpara, I said that was actually a concern at the time because I'm like, does this mean they're not getting Igor Milicic because they want Igor Milicic? Tennessee has just massively upgraded their post game. Yeah, you heard me say that. They have massively upgraded their post game from last year. Tennessee has a true big and Felix Okpara who can do everything Jonas Aidoo did on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, he is an amazing shot blocker, amazing rebounder. He's 6'11". He's wildly athletic. Then they go and add Igor Milicic, who can do the scoring. Oh, by the way, Okpara can do all the defensive things Toby Awaka can do also with the toughness, but he's 3 inches taller and more athletic. So there's all of that. Now, the finesse that Jonas Aidoo provided, they get an Igor Milicic, who is 6'10", who is a 38% three-point shooter and hit 2 threes a game last year, averaging 13 points, but also 8.5 rebounds. So he can play under the basket and he can stretch the court. And then there's JP Estrella, who's going to develop for Tennessee. You saw that at the end of the year. Tennessee went from having 2 bigs last year, an Aidoo and a 6'8" Awaka. And now they have 3 bigs, all at least 6'10", all of whom will be valuable next year. One of whom can create floor spacing in Igor Milicic because he's going to be able to get outside and shoot the 3. That's something they were missing with Zach Edey, or when they were facing Zach Edey this past year. I think that this is incredible. This allows Rick Barnes to play his old way with his new way. Because Rick Barnes likes a couple of bigs inside and tries to play inside out. Well, with Igor Milicic, you can play inside out, but you could also still have 4 guys on the perimeter and have 1 guy down low. Because Igor Milicic can do either way. Can play either way. This is gigantic. This is incredible.
Wow, that's a pretty strong statement there. Incredible. What other schools were going after him, Caleb?
Let me pull that up. Let's see.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, I'll remind you, John Adams typically joins us on a Tuesday. He is off this week, but he will be rejoining us very soon. So with Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. So what were you pulling up again?
Well, so I was pulling up the schools he transferred to Tennessee over.
Okay,
but
we'll
now
give you that. We'll give you that in 15 seconds.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
All right, so who'd they beat out for Milicic?
Still pulling that up, but I'm having a hard time finding who they beat out, quite honestly, which may be a bit of a concern.
Well, these European players, sometimes it's tough to know.
Well, no, it's also, this is just terrible reporting by some of the other recruiting sites that aren't reporting where he was looking, quite honestly. I'm just going to say that out loud. Yes. The real story, though, is that he was at Virginia as a freshman. So he was valued in a lot of ways. I never really looked at his top schools, to be fair. I looked at what he could do, and I looked at his play, and his play was incredible. And
describe, if you can describe him as you see him as a basketball player, and you're not a coach and you're not a player, so I can ask you to do this. Make a comparison for me. And if you don't have one right now, hold tight and we'll get back to it.
A comparison for Igor Milicic Jr. I'm trying to think.
You can get to that. What did you like about his play?
Tricky. Oh, I actually wrote the comparison. No, I actually said this. Yeah. Dirk Nowitzki. He's Dirk Nowitzki. Like,
setting you up for that. That's a pretty big one. I mean, Dirk Nowitzki changed the game.
Yes, exactly. But this was a huge but that's what I'm saying. Dirk Nowitzki changed the game, and Igor Milicic is part of that changing of the game. And so I guess that's where I'm coming with it, is that Igor Milicic
Oh, we lost Kate.
By the way, his top two. By the way,
Igor Milicic can what? We lost you for a second.
Oh, he shot 37.8% from 3 last year. Hit 1.8 threes a game. And by the way, he visited Nebraska and Baylor. And so Nebraska is one thing, but Baylor did win the national title 3 years ago. So to beat out Baylor is pretty impressive. And so, I mean, this is a gigantic pickup. He is 1.8 of 3.8 on threes a game this past year. And he's a development player. He played like 6 minutes when he was at Virginia. Then he played 22 minutes 2 years ago when he transferred to Charlotte. Then he played 30 minutes a game. He's upped his averages every year. He is a typical development player that embraces developing as a prospect, the exact type of player Rick Barnes wants. And him and Felix Okpara together in the post, that's going to be incredible. That's an incredible duo. Add in Darlington Dubar, who Rick Barnes just got to get to be his next Dalton Connect, basically.
Okay. That's where you and I are going to differ a little bit, because this team has no Dalton Connect, in my opinion, until I see him in an orange uniform running up and down the court at Thompson Bowling Arena. Because I think Dalton Connect is that type of special once a decade, once every 15 years or so player. So I would just say odds-wise, the chance of him doing that are going to be slim. So that leads us to the poll question, which is on the YouTube page. And I'm really curious about this one. Will Vols be better in 24-25 than they were last year? Yes, Barnes figured it out. No, there's no Dalton. I think you know where I stand. There's no Dalton. Until I see a guy be that special, do what he did against Auburn, no, I'm not there, and I'm not going to be. They could be deeper. There are a lot of players on that team that I thought kind of choked down the stretch, but it wasn't Dalton Connect, and they don't have him.
Yes, they'll be better. Yes, they will be better. And I'm going to tell you that right now. They have a guy who is the exact profile of Dalton Connect in Darlington Dubar. They have better bigs. It's just a fact that their bigs are better now. Okay? They have more options among bigs. They had 2 last year because JP Estrella had to develop. Now they have 3, and that's not even including the fact that Cade Phillips might develop. So they are deeper at the big in the post. If they didn't do any more additions right now, they'd have an 8-man rotation ready to go. Their guard play this year is going to be more efficient offensively. I have all the respect in the world for Josiah Jordan-James. I also have a great deal of sympathy for what Santiago Vescovi had to go through this past year and also changing the offense. But I think Tennessee's backcourt is going to be better this year with Cameron Card developing, Jemai Mashak developing, Jordan Gainey back for another year, Zakai Ziegler returning. So with all that in mind, yeah, they're going to be better next. Even if Darlington Dubar is not as good as Dalton Connect, they'll still be better next year because their big rotation is incredible.
See, I think so much of Dalton Connect that would stun me if they had anybody in his stratosphere. Maybe I think more of him than you.
I think Dalton Connect is a trend, not a unique outlier for Rick Barnes. I think he's going to be getting Dalton Connects for the next 10 years.
Okay, explain that. And then I want to go to Kyle had something to say on the message board that I thought was interesting. And Elias did too. Sorry, it was Elias. Go ahead.
Dalton Connect thrives so much because he's a wing who can score. So he's the perfect type of player for Rick Barnes to develop. Typically, Rick Barnes got one and dones that were like that. Think Kevin Durant, who, by the way, you would probably agree Kevin Durant was generational. Right? He was a generational player.
Yeah, we've gotten to the point, not just on this show, but all media throw that around a little too loosely. But right. Bo Jackson's generational.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Kevin Durant was generational. Dalton Connect was better playing for Rick Barnes than Kevin Durant was. The reason is because Dalton Connect, as a 5th or 4th year guy, had that talent and was fully willing to buy into what Rick Barnes was trying to get him to do. He's going to continue to go for 3 and 4 year guys who will fully buy into what Rick Barnes is trying to get him to do. And because of that, you will see wings, who can score, all of a sudden thrive for Rick Barnes. It's going to be a factory the way Josh Heupel quarterbacks is a factory, or the way Steve Spurrier quarterbacks was a factory in the 90s.
I love that Josh Heupel quarterbacks. You just say that factory, just like it's already done and done.
Josh Heupel puts quarterbacks in the NFL, whether or not they're good.
Well, that's true.